Let me tell you something most people get completely wrong. Self-sufficient introverts are not antisocial. They are not arrogant. And they are definitely not emotionally unavailable. They simply learned very early that depending on others can be expensive. Not financially, emotionally. That's where it starts. The psychology of the self-sufficient introvert is not about personality preference alone. It's about adaptation. And adaptation always has a story behind it. Most self-sufficient introverts did not wake up one day and decide, I don't need anyone. They slowly discovered that needing less felt safer. When a child repeatedly experiences emotional inconsistency, sometimes supported, sometimes dismissed, sometimes misunderstood, the brain begins building a backup system. Independence becomes protection. Silence becomes regulation. Solitude becomes recovery. Psychology calls this adaptive self-reliance. It develops when a person learns that their emotional needs may not always be met reliably. So instead of chasing reassurance, they reduce the need for it. Instead of asking for help, they learn the skill. Instead of leaning, they stabilize themselves. From the outside, this looks like strength, and it is strength, but it is also strategy. Here's what most people don't see. Self-sufficient introverts don't avoid people because they dislike connection. They avoid emotional unpredictability. Their nervous system values stability over stimulation. While extroverted personalities often recharge through interaction, self-sufficient introverts recharge through controlled environments. Minimal noise, minimal drama, minimal emotional chaos. Because their brain associates unpredictability with energy loss. Psychologically, they operate on conservation mode. Not fear, conservation. They measure social engagement in energy units. If a conversation drains more than it gives, they withdraw. Not to punish, not to manipulate, to restore. Another misunderstood trait is emotional privacy. Self-sufficient introverts feel deeply, often more deeply than they show, but they process internally. Before they speak about a problem, they have already analyzed it, challenged it, reframed it, and partially solved it. This internal processing creates an illusion of emotional distance. But in reality, it is emotional discipline. Research in personality psychology shows that introverts have higher baseline cortical arousal. In simple terms, their brains are already stimulated. That means too much external input feels overwhelming faster. Noise, crowds, constant messaging, social pressure. It accumulates quickly. Self-sufficient introverts are not avoiding people. They are managing stimulation thresholds. Control. When someone becomes deeply self-sufficient, it is often because control once felt unstable. So they learn to control what they could. Their schedule, their environment, their responses, their expectations. Dependence introduces variables, and variables introduce uncertainty. Uncertainty costs energy, so they reduce it. But here's the paradox. Self-sufficient introverts crave depth, not quantity. Depth. They don't want 10 friends. They want one safe connection. They don't want constant attention. They want consistent understanding. And once trust is earned, they are fiercely loyal. Because when they choose someone, it is intentional, not impulsive. Another psychological element is delayed vulnerability. Self-sufficient introverts do not open up quickly. Not because they lack emotion, but because vulnerability is an investment, and they do not invest blindly. They observe first. They measure patterns. They watch how you handle small truths before giving you bigger ones. Trust for them is built in layers, and once broken, rarely rebuilt the same way. Here's something powerful. Many self-sufficient introverts were once highly expressive, but repeated misinterpretation, dismissal, or emotional minimization taught them to compress, to filter, to internalize. Over time, expression becomes selective, not absent, selective. There is also a cognitive advantage often overlooked. Self-sufficient introverts tend to develop strong internal dialogue. They self-reflect frequently. They replay conversations, analyze dynamics, assess motives, evaluate their own behavior. This creates high self-awareness, but it can also create overthinking. They may appear calm externally, while internally running simulations. What did that mean? Was that necessary? Could I have responded differently? Their mind is rarely idle. It is structured, intentional, but rarely loud. Another key factor is emotional endurance. Because they do not express everything immediately, they build tolerance. They can sit with discomfort longer than most. They can endure silence, distance, ambiguity. But endurance has limits. If repeatedly pushed, they don't explode. They detach. And detachment from a self-sufficient introvert is quiet. No drama, no announcements, no public breakdown. Just reduced access. And once access is reduced, it is difficult to regain. Here's what makes them powerful. They do not need constant validation. They validate internally. They do not require constant reassurance. They reassure themselves. They do not collapse easily under isolation because they trained in it. But strength does not mean absence of need. It means selective need. Self-sufficient introverts still desire connection. They simply desire regulated connection. Predictable, respectful, low drama, mutually aware. They thrive in environments where independence is not threatened, where space is not interpreted as rejection, where silence is not interpreted as anger, where depth is valued over performance. And here's the part most people never consider. Self-sufficiency can become so strong that asking for help feels unnatural. Not impossible, unnatural. Their brain is wired to solve first, ask later. Sometimes never ask. This can create invisible loneliness. Not because they are alone, but because they are rarely fully seen. They are capable, composed, reliable. So others assume they are fine, and often they are. But even the strongest nervous system benefits from safe dependence. Healthy interdependence. Psychology does not frame self-sufficient introversion as a flaw. It frames it as adaptive intelligence. A nervous system that optimized for stability. A personality that values depth over noise. A mind that prefers intention over impulse. The self-sufficient introvert is not distant. They are deliberate. Not cold, calibrated. Not withdrawn, protective of energy. And when they choose you, when they trust you, when they allow you into their inner world, you are not casually included. You are intentionally selected. And that selection is one of the most meaningful forms of connection that exists.